Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Hollywood MMA Show with your MMA Show news. I'd like to welcome you to another Lounging with Legend session, but this time I'm joined with the legend, Royce Gracie. How are you doing, sir?
Good.
It was kind of tough for us to kind of fit into your schedule. You've been pretty busy. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've been doing and your schedule and where you've been traveling to?
I travel about 7 months of the year, all over the world, teaching from law enforcement to army to a lot of martial arts schools. Life is good.
Man, it must be good. Yeah, I mean, so you're working with different police departments and military too as well, huh?
Yes.
Okay.
Teaching them how to arrest the people without having to beat them up.
Right.
So that's what Jiu Jitsu is all about.
So they don't get sued?
So they don't get sued. Yes, they can't just punch people in the face, so they got to arrest.
Right.
I mean, they increase the violence. I mean, if the guy attacks them, they're going to defend themselves, depending on how violent the guy is. Mm-hmm. So, the idea is to subdue the opponent without having to beat them up.
Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. Jiu Jitsu has changed a lot since you first started training. The evolution of Jiu Jitsu is probably night and day from when you first started. Can you take us through the changes of Jiu Jitsu, the evolution from when you first started, the curriculum changes, the new moves, new submissions, could you take us from the beginning, from when you first started?
The evolution, okay. I don't believe much on this evolution thing of Jiu-Jitsu. How much evolution there is in boxing. There's not a new way to punch in boxing. There is evolution on the training, on the preparation, on the strategy. But the way you punch, 30 years ago, 50 years ago, there was a jab, cross, right hand, hook, uppercut. Still the same punches today. But how you train, how you prepare yourself, how the strategy for the fight, that changes. Same thing in Gracie Jiu Jitsu. The self-defense program, still the same. Now, let's not confuse what people say, well, this is a new move, new way to do it. Because that is not, it's a personal style. It doesn't fit for everybody. It's like building a house. The foundation is the same. What changes the furniture, the color. They come up with a new mix, new colors today. But the furniture changes, yes, but the foundation is the same. What kind of light bulb are we going to use? Back then was a weak one, now it's a much better one. Yes, that changes. But the foundation have to be the basics, have to be the same.
So guard, side control, everything, and with all these new names that they're calling them, it's pretty much the same.
It's the same thing, they're just naming. But my father was against putting name on the moves because it becomes a memory game. So he never named the moves. It was just, if the person attacks you this way, that's how you defend it. So you have to know the move.
I consider you the one that kind of brought Jiu Jitsu into the mainstream. You're the one that kind of brought it to everybody in America. Nowadays, kind of Jiu Jitsu went kind of mainstream. There's a Jiu Jitsu school on every corner, especially now that there's some franchises now, right? Do you think that this could actually hurt Jiu Jitsu in the long run, or do you think it's a good thing for Jiu Jitsu?
Depend on the teacher. I mean, I brought the mainstream, but I'm a product of my father's work. So I just did what I learned from him. There's a school in every corner. Yes, depend on the instructors. Gracie Jiu Jitsu is still an art of self-defense, not to score a point. A lot of schools today are teaching how to score a point. Who cares about a point in a fight? So there's no points out there. There's no weight division. So people are so concerned sometimes in competing in tournaments. Yes, that would have hurt. But if they're teaching the correct way, they'll go a long ways. People, when they look for a martial arts school, they look for a self-defense style. They never heard about ADCC, they never heard of IBJJF and competing the Worlds and the Pan Ams, they never heard of all that. So they don't walk into a Jiu-Jitsu school looking into competing. They walk in looking for a self-defense system. That's what my father taught all his life.
Do you feel, though, that if there is schools on every corner, that it might become watered down, like karate or taekwondo?
Not really, depend on the teacher.
Just all depends on the teacher?
Depend on the teacher. If the teacher knows what he's doing, if he knows how to teach, it's like karate. Karate was built for a self-defense style. if it's better or worse than Kung Fu, than Taekwondo, than Judo, than Jiu-Jitsu, it's a different story. But most martial arts were built for a self-defense style, not for tournaments, not for a competition.
One thing I've always heard was you fight how you train. And competition and tournaments, when you train with rules, that translates when you get into a street fight, right? Do you think that these tournaments and the competition are hurting the self-defense aspect of jiu-jitsu?
They're fighting how you train. I mean, if you watch me training, we train very light. I don't like to get hit. So I tell the guys, if you put your hand on my face, I consider that a hit. I don't have to get used to get hit. Forget that. I'll let you get used to get hit. I'll get used to hit you. But the problem is people teach to score points. Instead, go for submission. A lot of schools don't know what the self-defense part is. So, no, it's not just let's walk in and duke it out because that's how we're going to fight. No, we got to learn the technique. My family were not concerned about the scoring a point. Scoring, okay, we're going to, because of tournaments. I tell all my guys, man, underneath me, it's like, hey, don't worry about points. If you're going to fight in the tournament, go for the finishing hook. Go to catch the guy.
Right. I've noticed, though, your family is actually leading the way in changing tournaments to be more submission only, right?
Yeah, we're trying.
Right.
We're trying.
I mean, I think that's the best thing for the sport, because now before you had all these wrestlers that would just come in and they would win tournaments because they would just score points versus like submitting people.
Yes.
And I mean, that's one debate that I actually always have with my co-host. Is one thing is we always argue about is elite jiu-jitsu versus elite wrestling, and that's what's kind of coming up with the evolution of MMA and UFC and all of that. So
martial art or martial sport?
Right. What would be your opinion on elite?
Does wrestling have submission holds?
No.
So how would they finish the fight again?
Mostly points. Yeah. You're
By
right.
pinning the guy down. Hold me down. What if there's no time limit? He's gonna have to hold me down all day long. I got time. Right. I'm patient. I have finishing holds.
Right.
I rest my case.
Right. What about, and the same thing would be for a street fight?
That's how it was on the first UFC. A style against a style. And all the guys that did all different styles, they figured out that without Gracie Jiu Jitsu, karate is great, Taekwondo is great, kickboxing, awesome, wrestling, judo, all awesome. But they're missing something. Without Gracie Jiu Jitsu, they couldn't do it.
Right.
So in Gracie Jiu Jitsu, I proved it. My family's been proving that for years, that just with Gracie Jiu Jitsu, we win. Like the first UFCs, a style against a style.
Right.
Fought a wrestler, judo, kickboxer, a boxer, karate, taekwondo, for all those guys, style against a style, and they all got caught by surprise. Wow, I didn't know he had submissions.
Right.
I didn't beat them up. It was very technical.
Do you see jiu-jitsu actually ever adapting striking into the curriculum, or is it pretty much will stay submission-based?
It is submission-based. Striking, we use it more as a punishment. We use more of a move you from point A to point B. It's more of a punishment than using striking as a submission. Different than a boxer. He can only submit you by striking you, by pounding you down. There's no half a punch, there's no nice way to punch you. He either punch you or he doesn't. Since
actually talking about the tournaments, since you competed, that was back in UFC when there was no weight classes, no gloves, tournament style, a whole different than what the UFC is today. Can you think of any fighter at that time when you fought that could actually dominate today's UFC tournaments or MMA tournaments, and vice versa, anybody that's champion today that could be able to compete in your era in the tournament style? There's only one way to find out. Just change it back to tournament style? Back then, there was no gloves, there was no time limit. So tell the guys today, tell Jose Aldo to fight Brock Lesnar. Oh, yeah, wow. That's how it was back then. Yeah. You see? There was no cutting weight division, no. It was a little guy fighting against the heavyweights. Right. So there's only one way to find out. But then, since he's giving weight advantage,
you gotta give time. Because if you put time limit, now the big guy would sit on top of the little guy, win.
Right.
So you gotta give time. You gotta take the time limit off. And to take the time limit off today makes it harder because it's a program, it's a show. Like happened in UFC 4, the final 2-3 minutes got cut off from TV. They run out of time on the broadcast.
Right. What about in your when you competed? Do you think any name come to mind that could be a champion in today's UFC that you competed against, or that you
anybody
at that time?
Anybody could do it. It's just there's only one way to find out.
With different MMA promotions like UFC signing with Fox, they signed that partnership with Fox Sports 1, right? Which way do you think it'll go? Do you think MMA will become more of like a household sport like NFL, NBA, boxing, or will it be bad for the sport?
I think it already is. It's just like it became a dream for the kids now. Little kids grow up, 7, 8 years old, watch on TV. Man, one day I want to be an NFL player. One day I want to be a UFC fighter.
Right.
That to me is already mainstream. When kids already grow up thinking on the future, that one day I want to get in that cage, man. I want to fight for the UFC.
Right.
Right there.
But do you think that, let's say, right now, let's say, for example, the Ultimate Fighter numbers, they're lower than they were since they've started the channel. Pay-per-view numbers have went down. UFC on Fox have went down since the first start of the channel. Do you think it might be too much if Dana, is putting on Wednesday and then Friday and then Saturday, with so much out there, doesn't it oversaturate?
Everybody that I talk to can't wait to see the next one. And there's I don't think it's enough.
Really? So
it should be every night.
So in your opinion, no matter like Bellator and World Series of Fighting, everything, all these can compete. There's room for more and more promotions.
UFC should be on TV every night. It's like, people like to see it. People are interested. It calls everybody's attention. So I didn't know the numbers were down. You see, it didn't look down to me because every time I go to a show, it's sold out.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I know Dana would love it if he could have it on every night, but I'm not sure if you could have it on every night.
Yeah.
Like,
if it was down, man, they wouldn't be doing shows every other day,
right.
3 days a week. Maybe it's down from last year. Right. UFC has never been so high, so mainstream, man. It's never been so on the public's eyes. You see a lot of fighters now, they're going for the movies, they're doing commercials. You see, it's right there, man. It's like they're getting exposure. The fighters are getting a lot of exposure. So not so long ago, I saw a couple of the UFC fighters in commercials, primetime TV. And movies, there's always a UFC fighter on the movies. So they're expanding, they're getting much bigger. So yes, maybe it's down from last month, from last year, but it's bigger than ever.
Right. Broner, the boxer, actually came out and he's apologized since then and said that MMA fighters weren't, I guess, a real sport. That it wasn't that anybody can go be an MMA fighter, but not everybody can go be a boxer.
It's a question of educating the crowd. They're not thugs from the street. They're all martial artist people. They come from the background of jiu-jitsu, of judo, wrestling, karate, kickboxing, boxers. So you're telling me that Art Jimison is not an MMA fighter? He was ranked number 6, I think, on the boxing world. So it's they're all ranked. Pat Smith was number 1 at the Sabaki Challenge at the time.
Right.
Lyoto Machida, Randy Couture, they're all martial artists. They all come from a background of martial art. They're not just thugs from the street.
Let's go back to the curriculums. Now they're taught more classroom-based, right? Do you think the old way was better? Or how did actually, when you first started learning, what's the difference on the curriculum today than it was when?
The same.
Is it really the same?
We always had the curriculum.
Same curriculum?
You take a first class 20 years ago, 50 years ago, it would be the same first class today. The second class would be the same. My side of the family haven't changed anything. You take a private class, first class, second class, third class with me, and you take with Royler the same class. Very, very, very close, if not exactly the same.
So only thing changing is just the teachers again, like you said.
The teachers. Some of them know how to teach, some don't.
Right. Hinzo, he said that he's going to try to make a comeback in the UFC, right? In maybe the next 3 or 4 months.
I heard about that.
How well? I know he's 46, and he'll be 47 maybe at the time, right? I know that, just as a side note, Randy Couture fought Machida at 47.
Yep.
How do you see this going, and are you going to be involved in any of the preparation?
Man, Renzo lives in New York, but lives a healthy life. Doesn't go out party, so he train all the time. As long as your body allows you to, yes. He's healthy, so good. I'm behind him.
Behind him 100%.
Yep.
Are you
We're Gracies, man. That's what we do for a living.
There you go. Are you going to fly out to New York and help him prep for it? Or are you going?
If I'm around the neighborhood, yes, I'll stop by.
Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. When people say Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, the first name they usually think of is Royce Gracie. Because you brought it, you're the one that kind of forefronted to bring it into the mainstream. Did you think it would be like that 25 years ago?
I was surprised it was not like that 25 years ago. When I first arrived in America. I was surprised that people didn't know about the Gracie family. We were so big in Brazil, everybody knew our name in Brazil. Mm-hmm. Everybody was already training in Brazil. So when I got to America, it was like, whoa, people don't know us here.
Right.
That's strange. Got to start all over again.
Yeah, like you said, maybe people weren't uneducated at the time about it. But when you first came over, did you ever? You never thought that it would be, you would be like the one that everybody remembers when you think Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. Man,
I knew I would be the one.
You already knew, right?
I knew I would be the one.
Right.
It's have that kind of
mentality,
that kind of gut inside that, man, one day everybody will know my name. I'm a Gracie, man.
There you go. What about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu 20 years from now? Where do you see Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu going 20 years from now?
If I had that crystal ball at home, I would be playing the lotto.
Oh, man.
Where it's gonna be? Where it's gonna be, man? I don't know. It's growing so much, so fast. The power of the media today and the internet and
global.
Yes.
What about Royce? What do you think Royce is going to be in 20 years?
Teaching, love to teach, living life.
Traveling and teaching.
Traveling, teaching, hang out with my kids. Man, look at this day. Got up, ate some açaí from Samba Zone. Mm-hmm. Got the pedal boards from Riviera Pedal Surf right there. Just went down the beach, pedal some, came back. The interview, got to teach a class tonight. Wow. What a life.
Right, what a life, man. It's not work, it's more vacation, right?
Life is good.
Man, you had a successful career. Top 3 moments, and if you can rank them, of your career.
Man, I don't know. That's a tough one. Winning the first UFC, 3 fights in one night, no time limits, no rules, no weight division. No, maybe the second UFC, 4 fights in one night. Nah, maybe fighting against Kimo, 250 pounds, built by the gods, man.
Zeus's son.
Yeah. Nah. UFC 4, 3 fights, the finals with Dan Severn. The beast, wrestler. Everybody was thinking I was out, I was done. Submit him. Maybe fighting Sakuraba for an hour and 45 minutes.
Wow.
6 rounds of 15 minutes. Maybe Akibono, 6'8", 490 pounds. I don't know, man. It's tough to pick one.
Right. There's so many to choose from, right? What we did is we also tweeted out to a bunch of fans. We'd let them know that we're going to come interview, and if they had some questions that we would ask you. What I did was I picked the top 3 questions. One of them was, do you think UFC needs a transparent ranking system since the current system seems subjective and not necessarily merit-based?
The ranking system, I think, is pretty good. I know exactly probably what he's talking about. He's bringing guys that come in sometimes and fight straight in, second fight in the UFC, he's fighting for the titles. But don't forget that guy already have loads of fights before he gets in the UFC. The UFC is watching, scouting guys now from way when they first start their career. So they don't just pick guys from nowhere.
Right.
In the top 10, sometimes the champion already beat all those 10 guys, the top 10, twice, if not 3 times. So they have to change up. They have to bring somebody new.
Right.
So they bring number 15 on the rank that they don't show. They only show number 10, but they'll bring somebody that's down the line. And they say, well, people look at us like, well, I never heard of him. But he's been fighting on the undercard and he's been fighting before. So, no, the ranking system, I think, is pretty good.
What about it, you think, of the guys that get ranked higher because of popularity?
I don't know about that.
Into it too, or no?
I mean, there's guys that have charisma. And there's guys that they win the fight, but zero charisma. But if he wins, he stays. So if he loses, the shows will get rid of him because he have no charisma, doesn't attract, doesn't bring any crowd, doesn't put any butts on the seats.
Right.
So the show became a show. If you don't put butts on the seats, man.
Right. Can't pay the bills. Can't put the lights on.
The show is paying you, but you're not giving back to the show. So yeah, I'm not asking you to be a showman, but you gotta know how to talk. You gotta interact with the crowd.
Still business at the end of the day as well.
Still business.
Second question. What passions do you have aside from jiu-jitsu? And is there a correlation between the two that you think is important?
My kids, correlation. I teach them riding horses, shooting, balance, riding horses.
Yeah, nice. Where do you go riding horses at?
I just came back from Kuwait.
You were riding horses in Kuwait?
I was riding over there across the desert, yep.
Oh, man.
Go at 35 miles.
No sandstorms, nothing?
No, the guys are following me in a car. The horse is just going.
Wow.
And shooting. Man, I can shoot.
Wow.
I can shoot. Just got back from Oklahoma. Took a class over there. And then the week I was shooting 2.93 seconds, 3 targets, 2 shots on each one. Less than 3 seconds, 6 rounds. Beep, shoot it.
Oh, man. You weren't in the military prior?
No.
No? Not at all, huh?
Just enjoy my guns.
Just enjoying it, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So what do you think
my
about
toys.
Right. What do you think about all the gun laws that are over here now, though?
I don't like the gun law, yeah.
I agree with you. I'm on the same boat with
you. Second Amendment.
Right.
We have the right.
Exactly. I agree. The third question was, what's your favorite submission and why?
The one I can pull it off. I win when you lose, not when I want to win.
So every submission is equal.
If I say I'm gonna go for a choke on you, I like the choke, but if the guy blocks the choke, I can't do the choke. It's not a question which one you like. You gotta know them all, and which one you can pull it off.
Let's say a brand new student just comes to you, white belt, and he says, "Hey, Royce, my goal is to be a black belt in jiu-jitsu." What is the first thing or advice that you have for him?
Train.
Just train. That's it. Just
You're not gonna buy one. You can buy one, but it doesn't have any point on that. Right. So you gotta train. You gotta have discipline to get up and chase it.
And just do it all every day.
Yep.
Where can all the fans find you at? Your Twitter, your website, stuff like
Twitter
that?
is @RealRoyce. Website is roycegracie.com. Yep.
And what about Facebook, Instagram? Are you on all that as well?
Man, yes, @RealRoyce. Is the Instagram.
Okay.
And Facebook is already loaded. Just go to the fan page.
Fan page.
Yes.
You can also find us at thehollywoodmmashow.com. Royce, I'd like to thank you again, man. I know you have a very busy schedule, and you know, I know you're gonna be enjoying your vacation, traveling around and stuff, man. And you know, we appreciate you really taking the time to sit with us and talk to us about jiu-jitsu.
Thank you.